Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ari Shen, AKA Alan Biggers.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here, and it's just been an incredible experience listening to all the stories. My journey began in a small town in Indiana in 1941 called LaPorte. LaPorte, Indiana in the 40s and 50s was a segregated, very hostile environment to grow up in. I remember my first experience with that was when I would have playmates and I would go to their homes and they would say the next day at school, you can't come to my home anymore because my parents said you're colored. It was a very incredible experience for me because it impacted my life in a way where I became very bitter. My first experience with hair was when I would see my mother and my two sisters wash their hair on a Friday evening, and they would oil their hair and braid their hair and leave it that way until Sunday morning. I remember on Sunday morning I could smell the hair when I wake up burning as they were pressing their hair out to go to church. And so I'd look at them and I'd ask, why are you doing that? I mean, I love your hair, the way it looks, I mean, the way it feels, everything. Why do you do that to your hair? And I remember them looking at me like, you're crazy. In fact, I would ask my sister, and they would say, Mom, come here. Alan's going crazy, he's going crazy. Because they couldn't understand what I was saying to them, what I was asking them. And I really didn't understand. I just knew that it was something about the hair I really loved. And I really, really love our hair. It's been an incredible experience working with this hair because I love it. It's a thing that I embrace. My first experience actually doing hair was, again, the city was very segregated. So there wasn't a barbershop, a black barbershop, or a black beauty salon in the city. And so there was nowhere for us to go get our hair cut. And so I started cutting my hair, and I started cutting my brother's hair. And the more I did it, the better I got at it. This experience led to, in the mid-50s, when that whole civil rights movement started. And I embraced that also, and became an activist because of that experience that I had, being singled out. In fact, I remember when we went to school, I would hear this chant. Last name is Biggers. Jeepers, creepers, here come the biggers, niggers. And it was just, I would just cringe. But I kept going, became very bitter, became a fighter, started fighting a lot. I started fighting so much that it became almost an everyday experience. In the early 60s, I left LaPorte and I went into the military. The reason why I went into the military because I didn't want, the Vietnam situation was just starting, and I didn't want to go to Vietnam. I had this extreme fear that, first of all, I didn't want to kill anyone. Second of all, I knew that if I went, I probably would lose my life. So I volunteered to go into the military. I volunteered to go into the Army because when I went to all the recruiters, they said that 4 years, the Air Force, the Navy, the Marines, etc. The only branch of the military that offered 3 years was the Army, if you volunteered. So I volunteered for the Army. And I asked to be sent to Europe. I was blessed that I was. Because I had this ability to cut hair, because cutting my brother's hair, cutting my own hair, and then other people started moving to the city, and I began cutting their hair. I had this experience, so when I went to Europe, I'm in Germany, and the German barbers had no idea how to cut hair. Now this is the middle 60s when the whole Black Power movement started. And an interesting thing about the Afro Natural, it did not start out as a hairstyle. It started out as a political, social, cultural statement. I'm proud of who I am, and it manifests in my hair. Like the experience that Nefertiti shared with her mother. Her mother also shared that with me, that She was one of the first in Chicago, in that city, to wear her hair natural. She was one of those first pioneers that started doing that. So here I am in Germany, and I'm cutting hair, so I'm getting better and better and better at it, because a lot of the military at that time were career military people, and they had their families there with them. And a lot of the women and the children were wearing the afro. So since I had that ability to do it, I started really working with the hair. So when I got out of the military, it was 1966, and that's when the Black Power movement really started. And because I could do this, and because I really wanted to do it, I enrolled in beauty school because I wanted to do women's hair. When I went to beauty school, when I read the textbook, the first thing I saw that impacted me was the beauty salon was a place where you came to rejuvenate it. You came to be pampered. You came to be relaxed. I noticed that African American women were not experiencing that. It was just the opposite. It was trauma, it was pain, chemical burns. In fact, I remember when I first started, I didn't know anything about straightening hair. The elder woman it was in South Bend, Indiana. The elder woman that owned the school, she was the original Walker girl. So she knew all those old techniques that Amanda Walker had taught. So she taught me these techniques and put me right on the floor. I never went to theory. I went right on the floor and started working. Now here I am with these curling irons. She talked about what's called a crokinole curl, which meant that you made a figure eight in the curling irons, and then you bumped it out. Understand? Well, I started bumping, and then I would leave the hair very short because the curl burned off. And then they would say to me, oh, that's okay, no problem. Then I would notice the burns on their ears and the back of the neck, and I'd say, what happened? Oh, that's just a burn, no problem. And then I noticed that all of the women started coming into the school. Oh, wait on him, because here's this young male that's going to give this energy. But what impacted my mind at that time was, man, the power that you have here. Because I would accidentally burn an ear. Oh, that's okay. I accidentally burn a neck. Oh, that's okay, no problem. And they keep coming. So that's when I said to myself, you cannot exploit this. I must embrace this passion I have and start to work with the hair in that way. That's what impacted my mind from that experience. So what I did was I decided that because I could cut afros, because I was really good at it, I wanted to do this, plus more and more people were wearing their hair that way. So I dropped out of beauty school and I enrolled into a barber school in Gary, Indiana. It was an all-black barber school. So I'm in the student side. The way you had it set up, the student side was on one side of the room and the professional side was on the other side of the room. And there was a glass partition between the two. And as I'm in there cutting his hair and sculpting these afros, the professional side, the people look over and they say, oh. So I started seeing a line of people starting to come over on my side. So after a while, I'm doing nothing but afros all day long, 10, 12 hours a day. But what this did, it trained me. I really became an artist. And I felt I was an artist because I was sculpting. I was using scissors and clippers and picks and everything, but I was sculpting the hair. I began to really understand the dynamics of this hair. It grows out from the scalp in a curly, kinky, wavy pattern in a coil, which gives it natural volume. So here's his hair with its natural volume, which became the perfect sculptural medium. So I started really working with that from that perspective. 1971, I moved to Seattle, Washington. When I got there, to my surprise, there was no one styling afros. So I developed a very large clientele. Again, my experience elevated me. It took me to the next level. In fact, I met Badel Sassoon, who was the first Euro person who came to this country with a sculpting technique. He was doing the same thing with the hair. He was sculpting the hair. He didn't use rollers, he didn't use curling irons, he didn't use any of these things to get the design. The sculpt cut was the design. Light went off in my head. I'm doing the same thing. But rather than combing the hair down, I'm picking the hair up because it has natural volume. But I did the same thing. I used facial features, bone structure, and also the hair texture to design that hairstyle to be an individual, personalized hairstyle, because every person's hair texture is different. It's just like fingerprints. Every person's hair texture is different. So I decided to coin the word skullmetrics to really identify the technique I was doing. Skullmetrics was taking the hair in its natural state and sculpting and carving a hair design that was complementary to facial features, bone structure, and hair texture. But instead of using these as a guideline, I use imaginary lines into the hair, from the jawline, from the cheek, from the eyes, to sculpt that hair to be individualized and personalized. When I had a blessing experience to go to Africa, it was 1983. I had a portfolio of my styles. There was a young guy, when I got off the plane, he came and said, "Brother, we see you. When you walked when we walked through that door of that plane, we knew you had came home." The third day I was there, he came to my room and he said, "Brother, bring your portfolio. There's an elder that wants to see you." So I went down to the lobby and I brought my portfolio of all these styles that you see in here. And the elder looked at it and he said, "Oh, Watusi. Oh, Wadubi. Oh, Zulu." He was naming tribes by the hairstyles. He said, "This is genetic memory." Something went off in my head then. I knew that I had something here that was special. This led to this ministry, this mission to go out around the country and teach and share, because I knew that I can't do everyone's hair, but I can teach others to do it. And so that's what became my mission and my ministry, to teach others. In this ministry, in this mission, 1988, I was going to the National Black Holistic Society retreats that were in New York. At that retreat, I met a group of people from the city of Detroit. And they said to me, "You must come to the city because we don't have anyone that does this." So I came and I was demonstrating this technique, and I said, I think I want to come to this city. So put your name, your address, your phone number on this pad and I will contact you. At the end of the festival, I looked and there were 300 names, addresses, and phone numbers. Wow. And I said, if anyone would take a stranger and put that information on there, you must come here. So I came. I opened Alan Bigger's Natural Hair Center, and again, this became a center for the city, people that were because it was it wasn't just about the hairstyling, it was also about the culture, about being proud of who we are. Not just dealing with the hair, but dealing with the whole person. Because I figured that out one day, that healthy hair means a healthy person. Because as women know, a lot of times the condition of your hair, the state of the healthy hair, determines by where you're at. But where I am today, I would like to share to the beginning of the presentation today. We saw a box of locks. Shirley Hayden. I was honored and blessed to be the one that cut her locks off after 18 years, lock by lock. It was such an incredible experience. And she put them in the box. Her hair was down past her knees. So if you look at each one of those locks, you see how long they are. So another thing about locking hair, I'm not saying lock your hair, but I'm saying that the strongest, most incredible, healthy way you can wear your hair is locking it. It'll keep growing. It'll be healthy. It'll be strong. But natural hair also is a way to keep your hair healthy. Once you start using extreme heat, once you start using chemicals on the hair, you have to damage the hair molecular structure to alter that texture. That means the hair is severely damaged. So this is why I encourage people to embrace your hair in its natural state. And once you start using products and taking care of their hair, your hair will be much more manageable. Because that's the main problem I feel with most African American women, is they want manageability to their hair. And a lot of times the way that they try to gain that manageability actually damages the hair. So another thing that happened in the early part of this century is that all people started to think about holistic living. People started thinking about what they were consuming into their bodies, the environments they live in. All these things deal with health. And so we're at a point now where this new movement for holistic living embraces all of us. And I think that's one of the ways it's going to bring us together, because racism still exists in this country. And we don't want to talk about it, but it does. But one of the things I think is going to unite us is becoming humanity united, based on we have to stop this oppressive, degrading way that we're treating each other all over the planet. That's what's going to unite us.
This is Ari Shen. I have to see, when you give them this much love, they love it. We have to shut down the museum.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your energy.